Good evening to you wherever you're watching from. Well, it's not the usual NTV 4th Estate. It's quite a unique one on this very day, the September 4th, where there's been history that has been rewritten in Ugandan football, and that's where we'll center this evening. My name is Darren Alan Chene. Welcome to this program. Thank you for keeping it with us. It's not Charles Mwangusha. We're not going to talk roads. We're not going to talk drugs in hospitals, but we'll hit about all that as we talk sport in Uganda. And it's not the usual panel as well, because to my right, I do have a lawyer, at least, and that is Mr. Marshall Alenyu.
Good evening, viewers.
Good evening to you. To my extreme right is the NTV Sports editor, and that is Robert Madoy. Good evening to you, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers.
Sure. And to my left, I'll begin at the extreme end, Leon Senyange. He's been here before. After quite some time, you're back on the...
Well, yeah, approximately 4 years and a couple of months there. But yeah, it's a pleasure being back here.
Well, you're good with numbers, but we'll talk more numbers later on in the program. And just to my immediate left, Mark Namanya, the Daily Monitor sports editor. Good evening to you.
Good evening, guys.
And we'll head right into the gist of the show, and that is the Uganda Cranes. I think there are about 3 jerseys of the 5 guys that are seated here on the panel. I don't know if they're the jerseys that were done by the players themselves, whether Farouk Mia or Tony Maweje or Geoffrey Massa. But we'll start with the game. Uganda Cranes did beat up on Comoros just this evening, a 1-0, and it's been the talk of town. Facebook, Twitter, social media, everywhere you go, the story is Uganda, who did beat up on Comoros, thanks to Farouk Mia. And we'll begin from there. I'll begin with the lawyer.
Yes.
Mr. Marshall,
yes.
Uganda qualified for the very first time in 39 years. They'll be in Gabon next year.
Yeah.
How do you take the result?
Yeah, it was a very pulsating moment for the country as a whole. This has been coming. We knew we would get there. We've been having narrow misses, but this time I believe it was our time.
Mm-hmm.
All the indications were that we would make it this time. And well, even if we didn't play to what we think was the best, but it was our moment, it was our time, it was pulsating for the country. But we take it as a big bonus for us to build from, yeah.
You take it as a bonus. Robert, I'll move to you. Uganda got the goal through Farouk Mia in the 36th minute. After a fumble in the area, eventually the ball goes into the back of the net. The result is of a huge magnitude. Many keep saying it's the most important goal that has been scored since the Stadium Nambole was opened in 1997. But I would like to pick your mind. What do you get from the result?
Well, of course, it's a very important result, as you quite rightly said. Nearly 4 decades that Uganda last qualified for the AFCONs. There's a lot of pressure on this lot. Because you keep talking about Mia there, who represents the new breed of players, the likes of Joseph Ochewa getting into the team. But there are these Cranes veterans, guys who have been there for years on end, who have taken part in many campaigns. Geoffrey Massa, the captain, embodies that. And for them, I thought it was last chance saloon for them. If they had failed to qualify this time round, they would have done an Ibra Sekaja, if you remember. What happened to Ibra when we played Kenya all those years back, 2011. He was totally inconsolable. So for them, just getting past that finish line, those veterans, I know Dennis Onyango may take exception to being put in that lot, Tony Maweje, but they are veteran players. And for them, you know, getting to the AFCON final, I think it's a crowning achievement.
Okay, and before we move on, you can post some of your feedback right on our Twitter handle. That is at NTV Uganda. Hashtag is NTV 4th Estate. Do send your feedback. We'll take some of those comments, especially on the impact of Team Uganda's qualification on the on Ugandan sport. So we'll be taking more of that. Our handle is at NTV Uganda. Tweet me at Alan Darren, at Alenyu Mash, at Robert Madoy, at M. Namanya, at Leon Solomon 1. So keep the feed coming in. And we'll move to you, Mark. Uganda qualifies. I know you followed Uganda on previous campaigns. You were in Ghana the other year in 2014 when Uganda was robbed of victory. in Ghana. Uganda drew the game 1-0, but eventually they fell out in that campaign. They got back here. They had a chance to top the group this evening, but they managed to win the game. Eventually they qualified because second position guaranteed them a slot in Gabon. Your take on that?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, what Uganda needed was qualification. It wasn't about, I mean, we didn't have to care about what was happening in Ouagadougou. We needed to care about our business, which we did. And we didn't have to play well. We needed a result, not a performance, and we got the result. I think it's been, for me, this qualification was down to, like I said yesterday, the law of averages. We've done, and I mean, this is not, I'm not taking a swipe at the Cranes or the organization of the national team. I just think we've been knocking on the door. We've been knocking on the door for so many years.
Yeah, sure.
And we had a catalogue of near misses, you know, all kinds of near misses, you know, dating back to the 90s, you know, the Mugende Mukafiri scenario 1992, Adam Semgavi 93, and then at the turn of the millennium, you had those couple of the Rwanda thing, the Juju thing of 2003, and the Tabula saga. So in all those campaigns, we were self-destructing, you know. So having done everything, having gotten everything possibly wrong, you know, on the 11th hour, I just felt that this was, I mean, that time was going to fall when everything was going to fall in place for us, and I think this was the time. So I think Uganda has qualified just because the time was nigh for us to qualify, and that's why we're there.
Sure. Mark, you say it was a ripe time. You've talked of us knocking on the door for quite some time. Leon, I know you've followed all this progress. Uganda winning a 0-0, the victory, everyone celebrated more than the time Uganda beat Nigeria here in Kampala, 2-1 coming from down. People celebrated more than the 1-0 victory we got over Ghana just recently, the Savio Kabugo goal. And would you be one of those people celebrating to such a magnitude?
Well, very tricky question there, because you know where I come from with all this football talk. But for me, the key point here was Uganda having that moment to qualify. And like Mark says, we've been knocking at the door. It was just a matter of time of when that door would actually open. And yes, today it actually happened. But should we be celebrating with really, well, in numbers and all? Yes, yeah, at least for today, we sure will and can. But we need to look forward to other competitions. We have the World Cup qualifiers in October. We're going to go there to the World Cup. Let's not really push our ambitions way too high. Let's try and enjoy this moment. But the competition, of course, is in Gabon. I think for me now, it is about Uganda setting its standards to compete against some of the continent's best at the big stage. More than 30 years is quite a lot of time. Yeah, and a lot of times, yes, we've been playing the qualifiers against some of these, the Nigerias, the Ghanas and all, but the qualifiers are quite a different ball game from the actual competition. Yeah, so we just need to ready ourselves for the actual competition and do the things right. But the process of the qualification has actually been very, very interesting. Previous qualifiers, Uganda has barely gotten any 2 victories away. Yeah, and those 2 victories against Comoros in Comoros and Botswana in Botswana, I think, just set the tide for our qualification. So it was for us to lose in Kampala.
Okay, and as you take a look at those pictures that were at Nambole, that came through from Nambole earlier in the day when Uganda did beat the men in green there, a 0-0. I'll move you back to you, Marshall.
Yes.
Leon talks of Uganda picking 2 victories in a campaign. That's quite odd. If you look through the qualification campaign,
on the road.
Yeah, on the road. That's quite odd. If you look at the preparations for Uganda, I know you are one of the lawyers that served under the FUFA that was under the stewardship of Dennis Oboa, the late Dennis Oboa. Since that time, don't you think at that time it was also ripe for Uganda to qualify? For Uganda to qualify to move to Egypt, 2006, for Uganda to qualify in 2004, for Uganda to qualify in 2002. There was a Nations Cup in 2000, same story in 1998, 1996. Throughout all that spell, what do you think probably FUFA has done right that the previous body, the previous executives didn't do right?
Thank you very much. But I would concur with Mark. What Mark said would stand, because Mark said our time had come, and we've just been knocking.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get there. We've been nearly there. Now, if you look at the other administration, it tried. They tried. They had the players. They had the experience, and everybody thought actually that administration would deliver. The country was expecting. Every expectation was moving towards our qualification. We did not. Now, this current FUFA, I won't say they have done anything typically different from the other administration. What we could see is that maybe they are more organized. Maybe they have shifted the focus away from the politics of the presidency, who is the administration. We look at people now are looking at the players and the game more than who is the president of FUFA. It has now gone to the players. How are they playing? Well, we now have attention on the players after a very, very long time. So that also is very important. And then people have had patience with the coach. It's a good thing and also a bad thing, because the Ugandans lost interest and they left FUFA with the coach, and they just left it with the coach. When Saba was still coach, Mark, you remember the attention we gave the coach. People would find out what he's up to, what he's doing. But this coach now, people left him with the club, they left him with the Cranes, and we all looked away. I think that also worked for him, because he had time. People maybe didn't have a lot of expectations with what would come up of FUFA. I have a friend called Higenyi Hilia. Today he told me he's an exchange engineer, Higenyi, and he told me, you know what, you are still going for the same loss. I said, no, we need to give this thing a try. Every other time we have, our time will come, and bang, our time came. And yeah, so I believe this administration has tried, but you can't give it to them. There's nothing magical, specific about this administration.
And I think another thing, just to add to what you're saying, between 96 and 2006, Uganda Cranes had 10 coaches. Between 2006 and 2016, Uganda Cranes have had 3 coaches. Now, there's a difference. If you look at the campaigns between 96 and 2006, 2006 and 2006 to 2016, in terms of the way Cranes have matured as a team, there have been some players who have consistently, grown in leaps and bounds in terms of maturity, leadership, experience. The Onyangos you're talking about, the Massas and Mawejes, who formed the spine of that team. So there's magic in stability and consistency, and we didn't afford that to the previous coaches. Maybe they were not coaches of the grade of Zaba and Williamson and Mitchell. Who knows?
But just talk about the coaches themselves. Mitchell has been on the continent for what, 13 years? So I believe he knows the trade of African football and how it can how to treat African players, how to play around African teams, how to get results against African teams. So
absolutely.
That has helped him.
Absolutely, and it also helps that this was the first country Mitchell came, the country which ushered him into Africa. He knows the game in and out in Uganda. Even when he went to coach in Tanzania, in Sudan, in South Africa, he kept tabs on the players who were emerging when he was here. So it's not a surprise.
I also believe right now the players who are there right now, I think Mitchell has worked a lot on their discipline as players. We don't hear a lot about what's happening in the boardroom, what's happening off the pitch. They are a bit organized.
Maybe that's where I'll move to Robert. I've seen you smiling. Brian_Uganda on Twitter says, I think he agrees with Marshall and Mark. He says this was really our time, and probably the pictures do vindicate it, the celebrations there. But Robert, back to you. In this campaign, there were so many unique things. This was one of the campaigns where Uganda got to the final game, and irrespective of results elsewhere, only a victory had to put Uganda in Gabon come January. Has there been a concrete plan to see all these odd things come through at the same time?
I don't think, and I know I'm treading on eggshells here, but I don't think we really have a concrete plan per se. Things have fallen into place beautifully. the stability has helped for sure. The fact that and more specifically, I would talk of Bobby Williamson. Of course, is the unsung hero in all of this. I think the current team that Mitchell is overseeing has that stamp of Bobby on it. He gave most of his players. You're talking of Isaac Isinde, maybe Murshid Juko is the new face there whom he didn't work with. You're talking of players like Isaac Isinde, whom he handled and ushered into the national team. He found, okay, Dennis Onyango already in there, but he's sort of the unsung hero, and he was there for a protracted period. So because cohesion counts for a lot in sport, if people know themselves just like they know the back of their hands, it will work. That's why you'll find Tony Maweje picking out Chizito Luaga with a carbon copy pass. The pass that he picked him out in Botswana to score that goal was the same pass he used to pick him out in Ouagadougou when we were playing Burkina Faso. These guys know each other, and Mitchell is a very good man manager. So he comes in, which you would say maybe was an aspect that Bobby didn't have. He had that Glaswegian accent, which would it would keep players in the dark. Mitchell comes, he has this Eastern European accent, but you can see he tries as much as possible to know the culture, the languages. You would see him saying a few words in Luganda here and there, and he comes and with all these beautiful kind of tangibles that he's bringing to the table, he puts together a beautiful mosaic, because this team, the players know each other and they fight for each other when they're on the pitch.
But then again, Robert, I can't say I totally disagree with your submission. But under Bob Williamson, we had those two campaigns, Kenya and Zambia. And Kenya, I mean, I haven't seen Uganda created chances against Kenya to win 10 games. We couldn't put away one. Against Zambia, we performed well in Ndola. We lost 1-0, came back here, won 1-0, and lost in a shootout. I thought Uganda's problems then were more psychological than anything, you know, because we could compete with the African champions, Zambia here, but we just didn't have that mental edge to take us past the finishing line. And you cannot disregard Mitchell's role in terms of...
I haven't this. He asked me if we have a concrete plan.
Okay. Talked about the leadership. And if you look at the transitions that have occurred, 4 qualifiers, 2 near misses, 1 qualifier, a qualification. How much influence has been there for the previous qualifiers and this particular qualifier? You'd realize that there's always been a bit much more of the politics into a qualifier, the hype, and so much has been given into the team, so much has been promised. So we're blinded by the fact that we actually need to win a game on the field to qualify. It has been quite different this time round. I think people have been cautious with their own expectations, and that has put less pressure on the players, even when they know we actually need to win this game.
And even the man management, which I was talking about, because they burnt their fingers before, if you're facing point 2011, where the national camp, the national team camp was just open. You know, the door was open to everyone. Anyone would come and walk in, make this atrocious.
I think, I mean, by and large, we did so many things right for this campaign. We learned from the lessons of 2011. I mean, you had training sessions being stopped because politicians were going to visit the team, you know, at 11, at midday, you know, in heat. When the players are just, you know, but I think Williamson was obviously, he was a gentleman. Was a gentleman, but those things were, they all affected, they worked against Uganda Cranes in the build up to the Kenya game.
Maybe Mark and company will put a halt to this segment. We'll take a breather, but when we return, we'll pick more of your feedback on Twitter. Keep sending the feedback through via our Twitter handle, that is at NTV Uganda, at Alan Darin, on the impact of Uganda's qualification to the Nations Cup. Does it change the perception towards sport? Does it change anything, sport in Uganda? We'll be right back after this break.
it's not Alan gaining weight. Sport always has a change of tactics, and there's a substitution right there for you on Fourth Estate. I'll take this segment from Darren Alan Cheine, and I am Ismail Dakabachigongo. Remember, it's a special edition of Fourth Estate. We don't have Charles Mwangusha with us because we are talking a lot about Uganda Cranes qualification for the Nations Cup for the first time in 39 years. And I've been listening to the debate throughout the first segment, and I want to move the debate forward to something that I think is very pertinent for every viewer of NTV tonight. In my neighborhood, there is a very bad road that I don't like. I'd love it to be tarmacked and with street lights. So in my neighborhood, what matters most is the road. And I want to start with the lawyer here, because he's not often on panels like this, like most of us are. What's more important? Is it the process or the result?
Well, with sport,
in regard to Uganda Cranes?
I think with Uganda Cranes now, you look at the result, where things went. The result was good. We needed the result to restart the process. I don't know if I'm clear.
Yeah. Because normally, well, everyone who is involved with sport thinks about academies. We talk about all these things that make sport better. So the result eventually is to qualify for the Nations Cup. Now that Uganda has qualified, would you put the result before the process, or you want the process then the result?
I think if the process is defunct, you may need a result to kickstart the process. For example, now that we have qualified, we are going to ask ourselves many questions. Where do we go from here? How do we want it to play out? Should we next time predict our victory with a more sober process? How do we expect the sports to benefit from this one single victory? Remember, we've just come from the Rio Olympics, and the sports world, the Ugandan sports world, has been so subdued. We didn't even want to know when they came back. It is people they just got in.
I see Robert wearing the green. Robert, you seem to be banned. You want the academy, or you want to be at the Nations Cup?
No, I mean, traditionally, Uganda, we've always placed the cart ahead of the horse. And I don't think that has changed. When Moses Magogo took over, obviously came up with this, took over the FUFA reins, that is, came up with this pet project of his 2019, where he talked about he's going to try to grow the game from the grassroots, that we basically are not looking at it as a do or die, that we should qualify for 2017. If you're to look at how this campaign has been handled, you could say yes, Chan 2016, the young player Zoom Mitchell, took to Rwanda.
You could even go back to Chan 2014.
Yes, yeah, even Chan 2014. But if we may start with 2016, because it's Idrissa Lubega who has been all the rage in local football. You had couple of young players from Bright Stars, Joseph Nsubuga, who is now at Villa, being taken through. But you don't see something really concrete, because if you look at, for instance, countries, soccer powerhouses or football powerhouses like Germany, they tend to groom these players in like a whole lot and usher them as a team. You'll have the Thomas Mullers playing together with Tony Kroos and all of that, and they will be ushered into...
we are very fond of comparing ourselves with drafts, and I like the fact that Robert throws in Germany, because many times when we have comparisons, and I've had this about in debates that involve age cheating, when you have a comparison about Uganda cheating, someone says other countries cheat. So sometimes you're comparing yourself to a dwarf that never really works out. But Leon, there's when every FUFA that has been around has promised a Nations Cup. I think it's one of the things that made Lawrence Mulindwe darling of Uganda, because he said, I'm going to take you to the Nations Cup. Then when coaches win in qualification campaigns, like do great things for their countries, they become heroes. So who do you want to canonize, Mitchell or Magogo? Who do you want to name a canon today? At the Vatican they were naming Mother Teresa.
I definitely think
a saint,
none of them.
None of them.
None.
I think
they were there in the moment. Why not name them canon?
And the players, Onyango has been there through so many qualifiers. Tony Maweja has been there through so many qualifiers. So I think we would not want to talk about who should take the saintly honors. No, it's about a process. And like you're asking, is it a process? Should we look at the process or the result? Yeah. I believe that some of the results we gain in Uganda are by accident and not by design.
Design.
Okay.
Yes. So, and I would say Magogo has tailored a particular design where he threw a bait at us and said, by the way, 2017 is not my target. It's 2019.
Yeah.
And what has he achieved in 2017? Africa Cup of Nations qualification.
They actually
He's having dinner at lunch.
They actually said
But,
he did that to take pressure off the players.
Actually, I think
Has that worked?
Which was a smart move.
It has entirely worked. Why? Because any other person, had we failed to qualify today, would, but the president said,
Mark, you may not be very religious, you rarely go to church, but are you handing out sainthood today?
I go to church.
Are you handing out sainthood to anyone?
Sainthood is for the players. It's for the players for me. They've earned the qualification. They secured the victories away from home, and Dennis Onyango has conceded only 2 goals. You know, Farouk Mia is grown in leaps and bounds, and I mean we've managed to qualify after 39 years. So it's got to be the players.
If you're in Nambole today,
leadership.
and all of us, I think all of us here were, when the match announcer, Andrew Patrick Luandaga,
Kept
did
mentioning Lawrence
mentioning
Mudimba.
something.
They did mention things, of course, most of them very political. But then there's something that caught my attention because he did introduce people and most of them got cheers. Then he got to a point where he introduced the sports minister, Charles Bakabulindi. And from where I sat, the boos were so loud that I was drowning them. There's something about government intervention. And probably Bakabulindi is supposed to take the minister is supposed to take the bullet because he's in charge of sport. Mark, does today change the attitude towards sport, or it's just a reminder to government to do their job with sport?
I want to think, and this is a very optimistic stance, but I want to think that today will change Ugandan sport. Thankfully, we had Bakabulindi's boss, the first lady in the stadium. I think it was the first match she was watching, the first match of this magnitude, and she's in charge of the sports ministry. I've always longed for the day sports will be divorced from education. I hope to see it in my lifetime. But I mean, she was there and she saw the power of sport, you know. These were Ugandans who are united by sport. And
I bet if you put together all the political rallies that happened during the election,
after the match,
you didn't get that number of people.
This was not about FDC, NRM, DP, and
or Maureen Chalia, my favorite candidate. Or
Maureen Chalia. It wasn't about tribes or religions. It was about Ugandans. You know, after the game, I know the stadium announced Andrew Patukwandega. He announced time and again, Ugandans don't go on the pitch, otherwise we shall be reprimanded by authorities. Initially, the soldiers tried to stop a couple of fans. After that, they were overwhelmed because people didn't care. And even the police, the police eventually decided to let the fans. So my point is, I think today sent out a statement that I mean we have to invest more in sports.
Yeah, but
beyond what kind of investment? Because there is this talk of invest money in sports, give rewards, give. I think what would you want to be done? What do you want to see done first for sport, Leon?
go
first.
All right.
What do you want?
You know what?
What do you want government to do?
Yeah, good question, Mark. You said something about you actually I think asked and said that shall we remember the coach?
Or the president.
But listen, once nations go to the finals, it's remembered in the political time. Like people always say, at Min's time, we went to. They will not say that there was
on 4 occasions.
Yes, and they remember Min's time, and they will remember that in the President Yoweri Museveni's time, we have now gone. So politics incubate sports successes. So if the policy towards sports has to change. Look at countries like Russia. Once they say that Russian athletes are cheating, it's a national thing.
Issue.
Brazil, anybody in the world knows Brazil for sports. Jamaica, they studied their policy and said, you know what, we Jamaicans, we have this type of physique and we can't do it. So we need to go sprint, and they sprint. So a country must study what are the best type of sports it can engage in. Now, Mark, I was telling Mark Sally, Yeah, I was telling him, I think yesterday, that you look at the African players in the English Premier. If you were to bring in those African players in the English Premier to Africa or to Uganda, for example, Balotelli, Drogba, all those, they look northern.
No, Balotelli is Italian.
But they look northern, they look tall, and you could definitely see that our defense has an issue with height. So we would look as a country.
But you know, you've evaded the question.
Yes.
Because there are several things. We talk about funding,
Yes.
we talk about facilities,
Yes.
we talk about so many things. Leon, if you drew a priority list, and you know, economics teaches us a lot about opportunity cost. If your government, and you listed your priority areas in sport, what would come first?
Let us first identify what sport we are good at.
Yeah, exactly.
What sport are we good at? Because we are now being blinded by a particular success in football. But the other teams that have qualified beyond the football team.
Leon, sorry, I would interject. I don't think we're being blinded by football. I mean, football is the biggest sport in the world,
True.
whether I like it or not. And it's going to stay like that for
Sometimes.
For our lifetime.
For our lifetime.
And
Now, this is why I asked, which is our favorite, which is
what
our
I'm saying.
sport?
I think right now, if I understand Ismail's question very well, today it's now broader than just football. We're talking about sports.
Yes.
In all truth,
In all, yeah.
sports policies. But beyond just having,
Do we do the facilities?
Do we
give the sportsmen money? What do we do first?
it goes back.
Do we take away taxes from sports?
It goes back. It goes back to the
What
same
do we
thing
do
I've
first?
been singing. We need to first identify sports culture,
Yeah.
then know what kind of sports we are good at, then put more energies in those particular sports as we slowly build on the others. Today, football is the biggest sport.
Yeah.
How many stadia do we have?
They're being given
They're being given away.
They are being given
Yeah,
away.
given away.
How many clubs have their own facilities?
None. Okay, today Vipers
So
are building
should,
there.
so should government invest in
KCC.
each of the 14 Super League clubs plus maybe the big league clubs and give them stadia?
Probably not.
No, but there's a
Probably
lot
not.
of-
But
So it's a very big thing, yeah, on how we should really throw the monies and where we should invest.
I think for me,
Yes,
I
Robert.
would want sports to be an industry. That is the ultimate dream. That sports us to be no different from the music industry.
We need to be able to first understand
the
sports.
same way the music industry has
Truthfully.
grown over the past 20
But I
years.
think the government,
So government has a role to play to lead sports in that direction.
Do we understand
And I
sports
think-
as a
I
country?
think why Bakabalindi was booed today is because he's done an atrocious
It's about
job. There is no
direction.
running away from that. That is what
You know, Robert, last week,
he should step down because he's a disaster.
just last week when the team was returning from Rio, Bakablindi had a press conference to launch the
pool
Association of
championship,
Uganda is
yes.
hosting an continental event. And this is a press conference to fight back at everyone, call you people media consultants who don't understand the role of a minister in policy implementation and policy formulation, transport. But
I think it's
is it about the person who is minister, Robert? Because you're going to reduce the entire debate to the person.
We need a sports minister who has a 21st century mindset, not one who is a fossil.
But one was, you'll have that kind of minister, but has limited resources, has federation heads who don't have 21st century minds, like you say. So it's entirely a cocktail of problems.
well, I'm not going to join into the bashing of Honorable Bakalim. But what I want to say is that for the government, the best the government can do for NS in the world, apart from funding, football gets a lot of funding from FIFA.
Even government here,
Exactly.
funds.
So there would be an issue with how are you using the money? How are you locating the money? Is there clear accountability? Who is? What are you putting the money
What is
into?
accountability?
But
Please,
they say
it's a word thrown
fish
around.
rots from where?
It depends on the type of fish.
But that's fish that we're talking about. Is
Rots from the head.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, there's something
and the
about
rot is way up there.
Robert. There's something I want to start with you, and this is about now besides government.
Yeah.
In Uganda, it's often that we get some kind of success. When John Akibwa won that medal in 1972, or when Uganda won its first Olympic medal, I think, to a boxer
68.
in 1968.
Yeah.
Then after that, there is a success that comes with Stephen Kiprotich.
Yeah.
Not long after, the netball team, the Uganda Cranes, do qualify for the World Cup. And there's euphoria and there's celebration on every street. Even people who didn't care about netball do meet you and ask you about the team. But we've always had these sprinkles or popcorn kind of successes. Now, if today Cranes are going to the Nations Cup, I think every Ugandan's dream is to have the team go to the next 15 Nations Cups. How do you get there? How do you play the next 15?
Well, for starters, if you
do we give Mitch a second life, or do we give Magoge lifetime presidency?
I think what we have done is we have built this house. We've started with the roof and we haven't set the foundation. If you go back to the 1970s, what Burkhard Papp did, the German coach, he didn't take us to any AFCON finals. But what he did is that he set in place a foundation
that ensured that even when he's gone.
Yes, precisely, because age-grade football was strengthened. So you had each, under 15 feeding into under 17, under 17 feeding into under 23, under 23 will feed into the national team. So you had that sustained success. So when he left, the Cranes qualified for, when he left in 72, the Cranes qualified for 74 Nations Cup final, 76 and 78. And they kept on gradually improving up to 78 when they reached the last to the final and lost that final to Ghana. So I think what I'm trying to say, long and short of it, is that we have to build, we have to first start building from the grassroots, have a firm foundation in place.
We've said that for so many years.
Yes. But what changes? Because it sounds very easy to say, Mark.
I think, first and foremost, we've got to embrace this qualification.
Yes.
This is the first time we're qualifying in 4 decades.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, in every campaign, I've always wanted Uganda Cranes to qualify. Not so much because it was going to transform the game. I mean, we see
the game of football in Uganda.
We've seen teams going to the Nations Cup, losing 3 games, and nothing has changed there. Rwanda 22-4.
Kenya too.
Kenya the same.
And the likes, But I think once we go there, I don't know how we'll perform in Gabon, but right now that is secondary. I mean, the euphoria and excitement is going to naturally, take over the country for the next couple of days. I think, one, that exposure for another generation of players, the Murshid Jikos, because for Onyango, Maweje and Massa, especially Maweje
after Gabon, they'll
yeah,
likely not.
Probably Onyango as a goalkeeper, Massa is probably going down, but this is a mere
Chizito Luwaga, Murshid Joko,
and a couple of other players who's better ahead of them.
Yes.
And who knows, maybe 2, 3, 4 or 5 players will get better deals when they go there. What I'm saying is that qualification is going to have, or rather could have, a lasting impact in the not just the livelihood of those players, but how the footballers in the country right now
think. And it's something I want to tackle at some point during the show. But so my director tells me we could take a few phone calls from the viewers. If you could splash, if you splash those numbers so people get to a point where they can call in. Mark, there is this thing that is sold to people that once a team qualifies, players will get deals. And I want us to get to that after this break, because I've seen teams that have qualified and their players haven't got those deals. You're watching Fourth Estate this Sunday, where I would normally be at home watching in the comfort of my living room, enjoying what Charles Mwangusha would be deliberating. But for once, we are talking Uganda Cranes because of that historic qualification. So let's take a break. When we come back, we'll tackle what it means for the players. It's still NTV and you're watching Fourth Estate on September 4th, 2016, the day when Uganda Cranes qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations for the first time since 1978. To be exact, that is 39 years. On the panel today, I have Robert Madoy, I have Mr. Alenyo, lawyer, Marshall, I have Mark Namanya and Leon Senyange, and I am Ismail Dakava Chigongo. When we went into the break, we promised that in this segment we'll take some of your phone calls at some point during the show. I think 10 minutes from now we should be able to take our first phone call. But as we went into the break, Mark Namanya here raised the point about players getting better deals. But if my history serves me right, when Kenya and Rwanda did qualify for the AFCON back in 2004, this is what everyone expected. Those deals never materialized. Actually, the Kenyan players that have got into the big time, and today is Victor Wanyama, did get there way after Kenya played at the Nations Cup.
They got Dennis Oliech.
They got Dennis Oliech to Oxley. Is it that? When you say players will get deals? Are you going to get 15 players into Europe or one?
I mean, it's not a guarantee. Make no mistake. I'll tell you, Colo was spotted by Arsene Wenger in the Nations Cup. One wasn't even playing as a defender. So
It's a
I mean, it's not chiseled in stone that once you qualify for the Nations Cup, the opportunities. But as footballers, as Ugandans, when you know that the whole world, some of the best scouts are there watching, you see opportunity to seize.
Do you think that you need Miss Marshall Alenyo? Do you think that Ugandan players need some kind of icon? Today, every Jamaican kid wants to run because they've seen Usain Bolt. Every Indian cricketer has seen Sachin Tendulkar. Every Kenyan athlete, probably the guy who was at the Olympic Committee, Kipchoge, the guy who transformed Kenyan athletics with winning. Do you think that Ugandan players need that some kind of style? If me, I go to Manchester United, every footballer here would go and work twice as hard.
Yeah, I would think so. That would be opposite. But you see, currently, the local players can use every other African who is excelling in any other league, because as you know, the entire football system is now exposed. People are watching the English Premier, they're watching the Bundesliga. So if there are other African players who are out there, or Victor Wanyama from Kenya, even if we don't have a typical Ugandan icon here, at least you can know that there's a Kenyan. Yes. And so, well, even if we don't have, many times heroes are created by people who stand up when there is a gap, when society needs somebody to lead them. So these guys, even if there is no icon per se, they can become.
For people who have lived longer, Robert, how come players like Majid Musi, who we are told are more talented, or Jackson Mayanja did not inspire entire generations of Ugandan footballers who make that grade?
I would like to think they did. Me having been a young man, I remember.
But they're talking about footballers.
Yes, footballers. As a young boy, I used to listen to football commentary, and I used to look up to these guys. Mia for one. I remember going.
Did they make you a better footballer? You only became a cricketer after listening to what Mia was doing on the pitch.
Let's just say that the guys who are more talented than me. But I would like to think that yes, there are many people who used to, and when you talk to them, I remember when Anthony Bongole had broken through at KCC. By then it was called KCCFC. It's now called KCCFC. And when I was interviewing him, I asked him about his role models, and he mentioned Majid Musisi. And actually, if you watch him playing, you will see how he keeps the call of his jazzy up. Yes,
and by the way, Robert, it's very unfortunate. Recently, I was driving through the neighborhood where Majid Musisi was first discovered, Mulago. Yeah. And you know, it's been fenced off. There's a lot of anarchists, and of course, there's construction going to go on. And
building a sports complex.
Yeah, and but you know, a few years ago, let me finish this, because a few years ago, when Majid Musisi had passed on, a crew came in from France to come and film about Majid Musisi. I was very lucky to be invited by someone to go and help them get through the process and to go to Mulago. When those Frenchmen came from Stade Rennes, they were excited to actually notice that the pitch where Majid Musisi learned how to play football was actually our Kataka. It's on Maram. There is no grass whatsoever. So if they came back tomorrow, what do you show them in terms of where Majid Musisi started? You show them the sports complex that Leon is talking about, or a maternity ward?
Been told it's going to be sports complex.
Yeah, but there's development now. It may have become another better facility. But
you know, the charisma. It's a big problem. The fact that these fields are being given away right now. Our kids are so obese. I am a father of two. They basically have nowhere to play.
And when we talk about schools, without government's attitude towards sport, it's not just about funding. we're talking about the fields.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the fields that are vanishing.
It's for your well-being because
I want Leon to say something before I get to the feedback.
What belongs to sport?
You've spoken about heroes or icons to inspire particular generations.
Yeah.
I would really want to ask, where in our sports facilities in this country do we have a picture of our own sports heroes? The World of Fame at the MTN Arena is
yeah.
So I'm not going to walk there and say, oh, this is actually...
We have no Hall of Fame.
We don't.
And today it's supposed to be Hall of Fame. Filippo Mondi has a stadium named after him.
Yeah.
I have never seen him. I've never seen him.
But you know, the transformation of television does not bring you Mondi in the 70s.
It sure doesn't. But a small picture of him playing somewhere on the wall. Majido Musisi. If you probably walked through our Federation House, do we have a picture of him somewhere? You walk through on a Monday, come back on a Thursday. It's ingrained in our society that we do not remember our own heroes.
I want to know he's actually the Cranes record goal scorer, but we don't know
Even
the
how
exact
many
number
goals
of goals that he
The Brigadier Moses Sali was saying that we should
45.
celebrate the soldiers who are killed when the Israelis raided Entebbe. It says a lot about how we don't celebrate our sports heroes. But let us take a phone call at this point, and the numbers are right at the bottom of your screen. You can call in and join the debate about the impact of Uganda Cranes qualification for the AFCON on sport in Uganda. And I'll be very glad to take the first phone call at this point in time. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Welcome to Fourth Estate. Your name and where you're calling from?
Yes, I'm called Michael from Bukoto.
Yes, Michael.
Well, this has been a very big day for Uganda and East Africa as a whole. I was seeing on Twitter, Rwanda was congratulating us to their convention. Well, my main issue here is that the government has a big role to play in our sports. You see, right now, previously, you'd see that the government wasn't so much involved. But today, the big people were tweeting about the event today. The first lady was there. Even the president, I'm told. The APDF fraternity was taking part of it.
Michael, thank you for your comment. We need to take another phone call at this point in time. Call in and contribute to the debate. Before we get to something else, we might respond to some of them. Hello.
Hello.
Your name and your comment. Hello. I think we lost that phone call. Let's try and take the next one. Anyone on the line? Hello? Hello? Welcome to NTV Fourth Estate.
Hello.
Yes, when you call in, please don't leave the phone to the baby. Good evening. Oh, the baby just snatched the phone right there. Let's make another attempt to take a phone call at this point in time. Hello?
Hello.
Is that a lady?
Yeah, this is Fiona from Kamwasha.
Oh,
Very good.
Thank you and welcome to Fourth Estate. Can we get your comment about Uganda Cranes qualification?
We want to congratulate the Uganda Cranes.
Thank you.
We hope that this time the government will try so that the Cranes can go to the bond.
Okay. That's another one that thinks that government needs to play a bigger role.
Hello.
We'll take another one. Hello. Hello. Good evening and welcome to Fourth Estate.
Hello. Hello.
Good evening. Hello. Good evening. Oh, are people getting lazy because tomorrow is Monday? Good evening. Hello. Oh, okay. It seems some of those phone calls are not coming through, but I hear a lot of government. Hello. One more phone call. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to Fourth Estate.
Yeah, the baby
He
has
talks
the
of the
phone.
baby.
The babies.
People are still excited.
People talk about government. What exactly should Ugandans do to push their government to invest in sport? Do we go to a ballot? Is it an issue even in the election campaign? For example, Leon, how do you push a government to do something about what you want? If I have a bad road in Nakauka, I remember a few years ago, the LC5 chairman of Wachisa at the time, Dr. Engineer Ian Cheyune, was watered with dust because the people of Busabala felt like, because you're the LC5, you should do our road. Should we carry grass to State House, to Parliament? How do we get our government to invest in sport?
I think it's a mindset, and it still goes back to what I've been saying. Just how much of sport, do we understand sports anyway, as a country, as people, as leaders? Do we understand what sports is about? Or it's just any other thing of, let's just go kick a ball around. No, we haven't yet gotten to that level where we actually know what sports can do for a nation, for young people, for a generation. We have not yet arrived.
For tourism.
For tourism as well. We just haven't yet understood.
Probably
those,
Kenya
those
no longer
facets
need to
of
market
things.
when their flag is at the Olympics, at everything.
I also think that, of course, the government, I think, has goodwill, let's say, towards sports. Yeah?
Yeah, because there are things that could represent goodwill. For example, for motorsport, which Leon is heavily involved with, when
Tax
cars are brought here,
exemptions.
when they are built, they don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
When they get in, but also
But I have to pay taxes on the tires.
the same government that you best give that credit. At some point, Lugogo, the indoor stadium, Uganda's only indoor facility that everyone can access, forget the ones at international schools, did get hoops that were flown in from Italy. They were at the airport for about 8 months. And the people who run National Council Post did not have about 8 million in taxes to get those out of the tax authority stores in Entebbe. So what is goodwill? Does goodwill only come to a few things and not the others, or it's supposed to be for all sport eventually?
I think this, for you to, any government in the world, for you to get something from government, you must study the government, know its policy, its ideology, and how to approach it, how to lobby government. How do you lobby government? For example, now we have MPs, the Alan Sewanyanas who are in parliament.
Yeah, but
they can spoke. Let me make my point, Mark. It's how do you lobby government? I mean, you're not going to go to Nambole and we were so lucky the president didn't come and the first lady came and people didn't boo the first lady. Those are signals. You are lobbying. Lobbying doesn't end.
I would want to come and show up at a rugby game.
But you don't agree that having
basketball,
you need to lobby
at a
government.
tennis open.
Mark doesn't seem to agree that having
Mark,
Dennis
before you come in-
Galabuzi, who is a former chairman of a federation in Uganda, being in parliament will
Parliament.
help.
It's
And
not
so on.
truthfully it won.
I think Dennis Sozi Galabuzi is in parliament not because of sport,
No.
because of his constituents.
Yeah.
I think
Julius
sports,
Achon.
Julius Achon because of Otuke. I think sports is big enough.
As a
Sport-
as a
on
constituency,
its own. We should actually be having sports MPs, the way you have special interest groups. Like,
for youth, for women.
absolutely. I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar business we're talking about,
Yeah.
you know? And there's no reason why it should be structured. The support should be structured beyond presidential bailouts for, I don't know,
For basketball
the
team
national
at
I don't
team,
think the sports.
for the netball team. I mean, how many can the Dutch Federation access the president? They
No.
can't.
But
they have
they'll
another
go on
calendar.
and win an
Ismail.
East African
Ismail,
Championship.
this
I want us to wrap up this
So,
debate.
Ismail, this government, once you organize, once you show that you organize, once you get organized as a sports or rugby, remember when the rugby union got organized, the government came in. The government will only come in when you have reached. Now we have
When you
qualified.
don't have money for air tickets.
Yes, now we have qualified. Government definitely will come
Kasasa
in.
Emmanuel on Twitter says
That's
a lot
what I
must be
think.
done if you are going to do anything to have a positive effect in Gabon. And then someone says commercials are monopolized in Luganda at Nambole. He doesn't think that's the right way to go. He'd rather have commercials in Lugbara or in Lani.
To remember people in our village, they know what to do.
He does.
They didn't actually.
Then Hans to Musime has a takeout from the show today. He thinks Robert Badoy nailed it when he said, we need a 21st century minister, transport and backup
Efekile
ladies and the
Mbalula of
Caliban.
sorts.
He says, I can't agree more with Robert. But the takeout, I think, for everyone today, and Leon always has cited it today, the thing about sports culture. When I see sport, especially team sport, one of the things I take out from team sport like Uganda Cranes today, there are things that you learn that all our children, and I bet all of us here are parents, all our children can take out. First of all, good parents. Is that one of the things you can learn in sport is that you learn how to follow rules, because no sport is played without rules. The other thing is teamwork. You learn to work with other people. And the other thing probably that sportsmen don't have in plenty is honesty. But at least it's something you'll know that on the pitch, when you score, you'll get the credit. And it's honest credit from people. Leon, I want you to have the final word, then I'll say bye for tonight.
On a bit of a sports culture, this is what I precisely think. While we point fingers at the government, we need to go back and understand what sports is. For you to have a successful footballer, basketballer, or swimmer, you need to start them young. You need to start them at from 4 onwards. You need to give them the liking of that particular sport. And while they have that liking, parent attachment is very key. As a parent, you equally need to love that sport, love what the sport that your child is doing, and you're their first coach. Now, that child has to run through a swimming academy, school or something, a football academy that has good facilities. And while they go through those processes, the primary school they go to as well has just as much good facilities. From primary school, if they are good, they go to the secondary school and find the good facilities, good coaching, good order. So it's a process that runs through up to the university, and then from the university they're picked up by a club, a swimming club that has written down rules, ethics, a professional coach, a professional nutritionist. That way you are going to get an Olympic swimmer, good footballer.
The hypocrisy of a Ugandan parent is that you see him in his neighborhood run around in the evening to be fit and then send their children to class from 7 to 7. Robert Madoy, NTV Sports Editor, thanks for joining for Thursday today. Marshall Alenyo, a lawyer and sports fan, and then Mark Namanya, the Daily Monitor Sports Editor, and also Leon Senyange. For once, NTV Fourth Estate did not have to talk about roads or health facilities or the law or elections.
But we also need our own authority in sports.
Exactly. And even for once, normally Charles Mwangusha does not have time limits. He does the entire 1.5 hours on his own. But for once, Fourth Estate had a substitute. First was Darren Alan Cheine, and for me, Ismail Da Kabachi Gongo. I want to say good night and have a great week.
Thanks.